Why do people please? Can it be problematic? Where does it come from? Hello, I'm Rodger Duckworth, and for the last 30 years, I have helped people at the edge of despair not only manage but to overcome their chronic illnesses and conditions. People pleasing. Why am I talking about this? Because of its impact on health. Ultimately, that's the nature of my work. How does it impact health, potentially? Where might people pleasing come from? Well, if we go with the notion of trauma being too much, too fast, and how our body copes with it, we can go into these well-known fear, fight, flight, or freeze responses if we can't actually take agency, shall we say, over our experiences to get away or to say no or to put a boundary up or to use some form of healthy aggression, and I'll come back to that in a moment, then our options are to freeze. Think about simple mammalian behavior, rabbit in the headlights, or a functional freeze where part of our being might be in a freeze but we're still going about our business, and that might create chronic tension and pain. Yes, because of muscular bracing in part of our body which is holding or maybe trying to protect, or an incomplete motor response of a stop, push away, get can create chronic tension and pain in the shoulder, for example. But we also talk about flop. Now, flop is a collapse. And in a way, the surrendering, yielding, giving up of agency is in a way what people pleasing is connected with. Let's go back, for example, to early years, and it will usually begin in our early years. Why? Because this is where most neurological pattern development happens. We evolve. The biggest amount of growth taking place in our nervous systems, we know it's so rapid through our childhood. We grow physically in stature, but we also grow in terms of our nervous system. And the way in which we grow, even to the extent of epigenetics and how certain genetic codings will manifest based on those experiences in our early years, shapes the way that we evolve. Now, the good news is that we know about neuroplasticity and epigenetics to know that epigenetics, a key part of epigenetics, is that it is potentially reversible. So anything which is not an inevitable DNA hard-coded thing, or anything which is an evolution of our nervous system, also through neuroplasticity, has the ability to change. If it didn't, we wouldn't be able to learn anything new, because you'd hit some magical age of 21, at which point that would be it for the rest of your life, and you'd never be able to pick up guitar at 25. So we have to be able to evolve our nervous systems. The evidence is there in the research and in logic. People pleasing. Well, let's say that perhaps you're little, and a human necessity is to remain in connection with our caregivers. It's existential to a small one that if their cries, their needs are rejected by a parent or a caregiver, then that means that their basic survival needs, if we go small enough, will not be met. And so a nervous system, a child at that age will learn to suppress their own needs in order to maintain a connection to another human being. And so they will learn to placate. They will learn to say the right thing, do the right thing, please the other person in order to maintain a connection and an attachment. Their lives depend on it, literally. Our lives depend on it. If we don't have connection to a caregiver, we will die. We would starve if they just abandoned us. And so it's a really evolutionary thing. And you see what happens is that we take those patterns forwards, that if the sensational quality that says, I want to be able to have my need met, or I'm feeling some sense of anger coming up, if when you're little, that sensory and somatic experience and human experience rising comes up, there's also a learned part of your nervous system that goes, no, and we transmute that. And we change it en route. And we go, that agency cannot live. You can't do that. No. And it goes, now I've got to start being perhaps an anxious attachment style, for example, where actually my own needs are not important because the most important thing is I stay connected to you. Well, where's your own need gone? Yeah. And it's not met. And that's people pleasing. Now, what that means is that your own needs are not being met and the own energy of that is squashed. And anything which is squashed in a way, an innate feeling and need within us that is squashed and suppressed, in my experience, will create illness and disease. Yeah? Gabor Mate, in his famous book, When the Body Says No, he says, when you can't say no, then the body says no. Well, he's really talking a lot about, not just people pleasing, but this is in that realm. When you can't say no because it's existentially unsafe for you to do so, then your body will say no. And so I hope that gives some insight as to what people pleasing is and why it's important for our health.